Well, good evening, everybody. So, as it says on there, John Cronin, and with me, Simon, if you'd just like to stand up. Simon Smith, Chief Financial Officer, and Simon's going to be staying behind later for any questions. So, if you've got any real burning questions, please ask in the session that I have. Unfortunately, I do have to go at a certain halfway through the evening, so that's why Simon's kindly been here to take further questions. But ask when I get there. So all about Cyan and smart energy solutions and the markets that we play in. So the disclaimer, I think, no forward-looking statements. As you know, we're on the AIM market, and I think the rest has been talked about. So we get straight into it. And really, what are we involved with? We're involved in the Internet of Things, the machine-to-machine. Of course, people talk about the Internet of Things. Well, they want to manage and look after, street bins and rat traps and all sorts of things. Well, that might come in years to forward. But what are customers buying today? Where's the money coming from? What's been monetized? And really, from our perspective, it's all about the smart metering and the smart lighting. It's here and now. People are buying this stuff now and deploying it in anger, and that's important that you concentrate down what people are buying. So the smart metering isn't just for electricity, but also for gas and for water. But of course, with gas and water, that's lagging behind the electricity industry for good reasons in these emerging markets that we play in. And then on the street lighting, we have got street lighting deployed in Brazil, and we have in China. And we have had in China for a number of years. And somebody before this said, well, is somebody out there stealing your software? Well, if it's been in China for 5 years, then I guess that's a pretty good testament. Better touch a bit of wood now on that, but it's good that nobody's been able to copy what's out there, which is important. So we have a secret source, and the only way that anybody's going to get hold of that secret source is if they buy the company. So there's an incentive for somebody out there if they want to get hold of it. The markets we play in, India, Brazil, China, and Africa as a whole, not just South Africa. And that's really exciting markets. So the emerging markets is where we've decided to take our leadership position as opposed to going for the Western world. There's different reasons why we have what we have, and this is what's the problem, that we're solving or trying to solve out there, contributing to this. So here's an example in India, and this is really percentage-wise the same in Brazil, the same in Africa and China. So they lose, $32 billion a year, $32 billion on the electricity side. This is where they've generated electricity, they've done the transmission, distributed to customers, and they've burnt it, it's lost. They haven't collected the cash in. 32 billion, that's a huge amount of money. So of that, there's something like 16 billion is stolen. This is people that shin up telegraph poles, put crocodile clips on, bypass the electricity meter, and unfortunately some of them would get killed. Not very clever. So they've got to stop that. And the more that they stop, the more they can invest in their infrastructure, the more people they can put onto the grid. And there's a lot of people who aren't on the grid in a lot of these countries. We all sit here and look at, we've got lights around us, microphones, fantastic. They have power cuts on a regular basis in India. There's people invested in new lathes, new workshops, thinking that they're going to have more productivity. Half the day they get power cuts. It's not a way to run a country. They've got to fix it. And I'm really pleased that the new Prime Minister Modi that's there, he's really on the ball, wanting to really fix this issue, and he will do going forward. So our solution that we've got, the smart metering, just to describe a bit on the overview. So this grey cloud here, these are meters in the home. Each of them have a small chip inside, a radio chip. And that gives a signal out, just like your mobile phone. It's what we call a mesh network, and it goes to this thing called a data concentrator unit. We can connect now 200 meters to one data concentrator unit. A few months back, there was only 50, but what we've done is invested in the product to enhance it so it can take 200. So that means that customers have less data concentrator units to install. So 200, they collect all the information up. It then goes over either the internet, either through GPRS, through the mobile network, or it goes over, and again, another development we've done is enhanced it to actually take Ethernet connection. So it could go over 4G, 3G, fibre if need be, but you don't get many areas with fibre in some of the emerging markets. But we're looking at what's coming and making sure we're future-proof. What happens then, it goes all the way onto the billing system of the utility over the internet. We have some software, that's Cyan software, that connects that then, all that information. So you can then sit on your computer in the call center and look at exactly what each consumer is spending. There's two-way communication, so you can actually give time of day usage. You can actually give incentives to the consumer to say, don't use your electricity today, do it tomorrow, and you can have it at 50% discount, or whatever they want to do. There's a lot of information then that's coming out to the utility. All that data, I should say, is being turned into information through analytics. So we're now looking at applications that we can layer on top of the basic infrastructure that we put in. Why? Because then we can charge for that. And it's all about managed services. You know, people ask me, why have you got a global agreement with Vodafone? Several points. One is, with this mesh network coming from GPRS here, we extend the mobile networks out to the consumer at a lower cost than the mobile networks can do, number one. Number two, they're used to having ARPUs. They're used to having mobile phones billing all of us every month and collecting the cash. What they'd like to do is manage services to the utilities with 10, 15-year contracts where they bill them per meter, per month. That's what they're interested in, as well as they've got huge data centers. So all this information that's coming out, it's got to be stored somewhere. Well, guess what? The likes of Vodafone, MTN, Telefonica, they've got huge data centers, so they can charge extra for those services. That's one of the reasons, or some of the reasons, they're interested in partnering with us. On the other side then, on lighting that we've got, again, we put a module in this, if this is equivalent to a street light. We put the module inside, again, a data concentrator unit. Here we have 250 lights to one data concentrator unit. Comes back to the local authority or whoever's managing the lights on behalf of the local authority. And again, you can see exactly when a bulb's gone, send a man in a van to correct that and actually move forward with the right bulb and the right, putting it right. But also, more importantly, saving energy. So how do you save the energy? So when there's little traffic going through during the night at 3 o'clock in the morning, they can just dim the lights by 50% and saving their energy. You won't notice, by the way, with the naked eye, that it has been dimmed by that, but there's 50% energy that's saved, and that's what's important for the local authority. Well, this just looking at then the size of the markets that we're playing, you can see here, look, this is the amount of meters they have. People say, well, why aren't we in the UK? Well, there's only 27 million electricity meters here. You know, this is residential. Out of the 200 million they've got, there's 167 in India. You can see the big numbers going across. The lowest is 31 million. We don't come across as well competitors like BT, Telefonica, Vodafone, Airwave, Arqiva in these countries because they haven't got products for these markets, which we do. You can see on the lighting side here, the size of the lighting opportunity. In lighting globally, less than 1% have actually gone to smart lighting. And apart from China, it's less than 1% on average throughout the world on smart metering. So this is just about to happen. We have won the first 3 orders for advanced metering infrastructure in India on 865 technology. That's the very first orders that's happening, the very first public order that we've won. So we're delighted with that, and that sets us into a market leadership position in that country. So continuing then with India, this is government numbers. By 2021, they're going to have installed 130 million smart meters from now, 130 million. And we're just starting, and we're the ones at the early stage. You know, you look at, as I mentioned earlier, 300 million people aren't even on the grid. They've got no lights, they can't do the cooking. So by being smart, they can put these people onto the grid. You know, the losses are huge, as I mentioned, and you know, the size of India is just, it's bigger than Canada and the US put together in terms of the opportunity. The percentage losses, which in the emerging markets goes from anything from 30% to 50%. This issue, the example I've given you about India, it's the same issue in Brazil. It's the same issue in India. So there's a real issue, you know, we're not worried in India, in Brazil, about carbon, let's be honest. We're not worried today about the green issues as we are doing in the UK and the US. They've got to fix some basic stuff here, and that's why our solution is driving forward there. That's why we're getting the take-up with our market position. So what have we done in the last 6 months? I said we won the first 3 orders for advanced metering infrastructure, and a £1 million order that we got in January through a system integrator called NZen into this utility here, CESC as we pronounce it, in Mysore, down the south of India. We're rolling out 21,000 metres. That's the order we got for $1 million. What you have to look at, and what's important, is the size of the utilities that we go in. This one's 1.5 million, and that's our projection going forward. So if you think we got $1 million for 21, you can work out the sums yourself. That's the opportunity. Once you're installed, it's sticky. The experience of Peter Mains, who's on the board, that actually was the CEO for Census in the US, a 1.5 billion market cap company. He said, anybody that's installed any smart water have never taken out a system once you delivered 5 or 10,000 units. And you don't put another system in because they can't talk to one another. We have a thing called interoperability that allows the meter manufacturers to all talk to one another through our system. So the utility then is agnostic to the chosen meter manufacturer that they want. Some of the other orders then we won, Essel. Essel's really interested because they've gone for a retrofit, which we actually designed in Brazil and now sold not only in Brazil but into India, but also they've gone for prepaid. So how do you get the 300 people onto the grid? You make it prepaid, retrofit, and put them on the grid. What's the retrofit? Well, instead of changing the meter, the old meter, to a new one, a new smart meter, you actually put the module attached to the existing meter. So you make the dumb meter, as I call it, smart by putting that module into it. And then you make it a prepaid. So if you think about the mobile phone world, when it's postpaid, that was fine. But when prepaid come along on mobile, it just took off like that. And that's where, it's interesting for me. I didn't realise that until this year that there hasn't been prepaid in India, but that's starting to take off now. And I think it will take off in other countries. And then Tata Power. Well, you all know the name Tata for what they've done here in the UK with Land Rover and Jaguar. A great success, bought the brands back, really good job. So we're actually installed in there. And I'm pleased to say I made an announcement saying 4,000 plus that we've installed now, all working 100%, which is actually good. You've got to understand the technology to get that working and get it read, installed in people's homes, and you can get all the information out. First time, that's good result. So moving on then, just talking here about Brazil. I said there's 80 million meters to go out there. Our partner there, Nobra, who tracked us down, Carlos Ferreira, who actually is the main funder for that, he was the CEO and COO to the largest utilities as named on there in Brazil. He understands the market. He can pick up the phone to anybody in Brazil because he knows them all in the industry. So he really understands the issues. He knows the regulators and he knows what needs to be done. And that's why we've got some pilots through him. We've taken commercial order and we continue to do great things with him. In Africa then, through our partnership with Dinsmore Associates and Vodafone Link, we've got then with Vodacom, that's owned 50% odd by Vodafone, actually own a good slug then of X-Link. And X-Link have got a proof of concept rolled out. We're actually at a show in 2 weeks' time in South Africa where we're going off to meet other partners and potential customers, etc. So we went into Africa only last year. Great inroads so far, and not only South Africa, as I mentioned, but also further into Africa. Just talking briefly then about lighting, I've already mentioned China and Brazil were in there. We've got 34,000 units deployed, another 15,000 there. Not a lot of units, but the largest company in the world have only deployed 100,000 units. So we're not far off the top one. So it's a really early market in terms of who's getting the number one position, and we're in there with a good slug of it so far. This is our go-to-market. I won't take you through all of those, but in India, we're just getting to scale now, having invested in there for a number of years and built up the ecosystem, right from the regulator, right from the government, all the way through to the utilities and the meter manufacturers. Brazil, we're setting up local manufacturing. We always put as much we can close to the customer. We've done that in India with 2 equipment manufacturers. We've done that in Brazil. We're doing that now, in China now, doing it in Brazil. China then, we're building out. We've got orders, as you know, in lighting. It's took us a while to get to there's only got 2 utilities, you know, in China, as big as they are, but they're powerful. And we tried to go in from the bottom up. For the first time, we've been able to get in from the top down, which has just happened, which I'm encouraged with. So we're talking now not power line communications as they've done in their block of apartments, but using full advanced metering infrastructure over radio. So that's great. Africa, I mentioned now, doing pilots and proof of concept. And since October, for some reason, we're getting inbound now inquiries for other parts of the world. And interestingly enough, Eastern Europe is sort of popping up into the conversations. You can see here then some of the parts of the country, the clusters where we've been, and the successes we've had to date. Talking here then about the team, you know, what's recently happened now this year. 2 key industry players. Mark Coyle was the managing director for Silver Springs. You may have heard of them. He was the MD for UK and Europe. He's joined us. Vikash Kushap has joined us. He was from a company called Secure that do good quality meters. He was part of the team that built it up to a £400 million turnover company. So he knows how to grow companies. He understands the industry. And these guys now are really making Steve, the COO in the back office, really now earn his money because we've brought some stuff forward. Because I said to him, when these vice presidents come in, Steve, your engine's going to run a bit quicker because these guys are going to bring in some commercial stuff that you're going to have to sort out. What we've also done is strengthen the board. 2 people, Harry Berry, first of all. Harry Berry with New Venture Partners. Harry then, he knows how to take companies of our size and get them into the medium size. He's done it for numerous companies. He run BT Brightstar, where they spun out lots of stuff out of the labs at Martlesham, if you've heard of that, in Felixstowe. So lots of intellectual property. He knows what he's talking about, and he knows where he can add the value. Peter Mains, I've already mentioned. Peter then from Census, really good feedback, good knowledge. Do this, don't do that. Oh, we did that. I mean, he was the same size, Census was the same size as Cyan is today, and now it's a 1.5 billion market cap. Kind of interesting. Good to have somebody that's been through that to get that value. What we have done here is just showed some of the slides as we've moved forward. But more importantly for me, really, when I arrived, we could have rebranded Cyan and said it's a new name. We didn't. We kept the name, we kept the brand because we're really well known in the markets that we play in. We're number 1 in India. Why would you want to change the name? You know, here, we're doing a lot of hardware. Before my time, that's what we're in, microprocessors and all that. That's all stopped and gone. Cyan Phase 2 is all about communications, the software. That's where we make the money, through the data concentrator units, the software, the applications, and that's where the margins are. Hardware, as a lot of people would know, you don't make great margins on that. We've invested something like 10.7 million of your money, and I know that I've got some Cyan shareholders in today, so thanks very much for coming this evening, I should say. So good to have your money, but that's where it's been deployed. 10.7, you might think it's a lot of money. Well, actually, in this business, it's not. When you consider one of our competitors in the US spent 250 million on their product set, because they like to build big product stacks like this in software when you don't need it, because emerging markets, you need that. And then you build on that going forward. So, you know, I believe we spent the money wisely to get to where we are, to the position that we got, and get product out there, deployed in the customers, and successfully deployed in the customer base. So that's all I wanted to talk about, and we're just on to the Q&A session. So I've kept to time, so which they asked me to do. Which
thank you, John.
Thanks.
Do you have any questions? Any hands up, please?
Can you explain a bit about your revenue flow? Does the revenue come sort of cash up front when you get the order, or are you looking for a long-term income from support to the customers in the long term? You know, are you getting paper reading, so to speak?
Sure, yeah. Do you want to take that one, Simon? He's a finance guy. I might as well let him do something.
No, I'm not. So, use that. Sure.
Oh, you got some product as well.
Yeah, I've got the I've brought the hardware with me as well, so if anyone wants to come along afterwards and see what we're doing in terms of the module and DCU that John talked about, you can come and see me afterwards and I can show it to you. Basically, the business model is selling hardware, so the module and the DCU, but the material part of the revenue will be selling software that goes into the utilities billing systems, and we're selling that on a recurring revenue basis. So we get paid up front for the hardware when we deliver it, but we'll be licensing the software, getting paid on an annual basis on long-term contracts. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay.
Revenue will keep flowing in once you've made a sale.
Exactly.
And actually, where we want to get to is, the ARM model with like that chip. If you just hold it up, Simon, which is that's a chip that goes into the meter. What we want to do is get people to make that under million, so we'll get a royalty payment, and we'll be happy with that, because it's not. We don't make a great deal out of that. We make it out of the data concentrator unit, the software, the recurring revenue, the support and maintenance that come with all of that.
Any other questions? I had a quick question, just to understand, what are the key IPs that you own then? There are other metering companies, you mentioned a few names, and what are the key unique to Cyan IPs, and how do you own them? Is it all patented in all the right places?
I can only tell you when you buy the company. But I mean, first of all, we've got our secret sauce. We don't let that out, because if anybody knows about intellectual property, I'm sure a lot of you do, people go on about IP. I've done a lot of technology stuff. I've been in the industry 30-odd years, and I've done 5 exits for shareholders, etc., all in technology. And actually, when you put your patent out there, what happens? That's when the copycats come in, because they see it, they find it. So you've got to be very careful when you put out about IP and what you really put out into the marketplace. The value is getting revenues, getting profits, and getting customers. So yes, we do have IP. Yeah. And yes, we'll protect it in certain parts of the world that we want to go in. So it's all about the mesh, it's all about the software where our protection is.
And so in terms of that sales effort, in those different countries that you showed where you have your clients so far, do you have people on the ground there, or are these relationships handled from the UK?
So when I first arrived in Cyan, what was happening, we were looking at one big customer in India. We used to fly executives from here, go out to India for a week and come back. Doesn't work. I know that. I've done that, done it before. So now what we've got people on the ground, local people, local culture. They're there talking with the customers all the time. And you've got to get as close to your customers as you can. That's really, really important. Get them to understand what it's all about. Give your partners as well more of the share of the wallet, of the cash wallet. Give them more margin. So we say, make the surround for the data concentrator unit. We're happy for you to do that. We're not into manufacturing. We don't want to manufacture stuff. Let them have it. Incentivise your partners. Incentivise the people on the ground to actually be local. And that's important.
Sorry, can I ask you another question?
Please, yeah.
With regard to your software engineers, which from what your earlier answer are really the key to the business, how do you keep hold of them? And where do you hide them? And how do you make sure your competitors don't get hold of them? Because they are the people that will know the secret.
So we put handcuffs on them. Handcuffs in terms of the package that we offer, and we know the people that we want. Because some software engineers, you just want them to be in the factory, as I call it, which is fine. But the real people that actually have designed it, made it, and all that, part of what we do is we give them, obviously, share options. We give them bonuses. We look after them. So, you just got to look after them as best as you can. There's no guarantee, but also we're not reliant on 1 or 2 people. Because what we have done, and we've had this tested, by the way, so under lock and key, we've got our software, but we don't let people have view of all of it. It's like a jigsaw. A developer can look at that part of the jigsaw, but not the whole, or 2 pieces of the jigsaw. So we're
where are they based?
well, actually, because of where we get success, and because we needed different software engineers, we've got some now in London, as well as Cambridge. Cambridge is our hub, but we've got some in London, because the catchment area, around Old Street and all of that, Silicon Valley roundabout, isn't it? And, so we go after the best.
Question at the back, please.
I was a shareholder of yours for some time, but I must say eventually I ran out of patience. So what I would like to know is the contract that you had on the screen from earlier this year, is that the breakthrough contract?
That's a good point. It is, and thanks for that. And And just to clarify, running out of patience, I understand because there's the Cyan 1 and the Cyan 2. And, the breakthrough is the first public utility has now placed an order with us. They had a choice. There's another dozen or so that's coming out the blocks in the next 12 months, just on the public ones. There's all the private ones as well. So, why would they back us? Why would Vodafone want to say, wherever in the world there's a mesh opportunity, we'll bring you in? Why would Larsen & Toubro, that's a 22 billion market cap company, sell our product through them? And by the way, they actually tried to do it and fell over. They took 50 of our meters out one place and actually put theirs in. They thought because they're a 22 billion market cap, they could do it. But with all the skill sets that we got, right from radio frequency design people, software, etc., communications, they couldn't do it. So they come back and said, really sorry, John, but now we know why we need you as a partner. So it's taken time. You don't enter these countries by just appearing in India, appearing in Brazil. Sustainability is important. We're not going to run away. We're not going to close down overnight. And these guys want to make sure that you're going to be there for the long term. And I think we've proved that in India, in China, and now we are in Brazil and Africa. Hopefully that answers your question. Yeah.
A gentleman here.
Just on that initial sale, can you give us an idea of the breakdown between hardware and software?
I'm looking at it. It keeps me clean of what I can and can't say.
We don't publicly disclose the breakdown. It is a mix, and it will vary on a contract-by-contract basis. I would say that more of the contract is hardware, but at the moment, but we're migrating over to a model where more of it becomes a bit software, particularly on a recurring revenue basis. And also, as John said, we'll be licensing the manufacture of the hardware in country, so it'll become an IP software model over time.
So, Peter? On the kind of the basics, some of the cash flow turnover, now you have the deals that you've announced. I'm assuming you're not, correct me if I'm wrong, cash flow positive yet? Are you breaking even?
Unfortunately not, no.
No? And that's next year, the year after?
I wouldn't be able to say our name. I'm not allowed to give any forward, I'm sorry. But, yeah.
Do you foresee then, you mentioned the money that the company's invested in the products and the technology thus far. Are you now in a position whereby with the cash that you have, the clients that you've got, the order book that you've got, do you foresee in the short term needing to raise any money? Or are you okay, say, till the end of the year, would you say? If you can comment.
I can't comment on that. What I can say is that, the products that we have and we've had for a number of years, it's interesting because you do the basic product, you get it in there, but now they're saying we want applications. I talked about prepaid, time of day usage, demand response. So all of those are what we call applications. So we get our software engineers and they develop these applications because that's what our customers are looking for now. Our roadmap, that actually 18 months out, because that's what you do in any roadmap of technology, where's it going, what's coming with the standards and all that. We've actually bring forward and get stuff done by this July because that's the demand our customers are saying that they need, and therefore we've got, oh my goodness, I need more. That's why we opened up the London office, because we had to get some people in to say, right, we need to get these applications out there because of the opportunities. So.
And I think it's from what I see, you've had this really kind of quite a transformational phase. Do you think now you're settled with the countries, the kind of the geographical spread, or do you think in South America, other countries apart from Brazil, or in Asia, other countries apart from India, are you going to try and focus on what you've got there, or? With
the resources we've got, we're focusing where we are, but I won't turn down a customer that comes along with an order. And why would you? Because, that's how we got into Brazil. So they bought some lighting product from our partners in China, in Brazil. They took it apart and found the Cyan brand and contacted us then in the UK, and they then partnered directly in Brazil. So we have people, and they gave us an order, which is also good. So somebody comes along and gives me an order and say they're covering all the costs, etc., then of course we will. Yeah.
Any other questions? Otherwise I've got one final one, and then I'll let you off the hook.
Happy for any questions.
The two sides, kind of the energy and the lighting, both obviously fantastic opportunities. Is there one that excites you more? Is there one that you think that's really something that
good
you think about at night in bed? I mean, maybe you have other thoughts, I don't know. But the thing that gives you a buzz?
Well, look, as when I arrived in Cyan, we were really pushing the light. And I actually said, hold on a minute, slow down a bit. The market's not quite there. I've been, by the way, the chairman 3 years, or been in the company now 3 years, wasn't the chairman to start with. And actually, I said the lighting were too early. Let's not do too much. The metering, the electricity metering, that's where it's at. You know, we can see that they fund it. Prime Minister Modi's put hundreds of millions in a pot for people to grab. We see that in Europe by 2020, every single household has to have smart electricity meters in. So there's a government's the demand, there's pots of money for electricity. So that's the one that's is there. Lighting, interestingly enough, I think will sneak past in terms of turnover and that in a period of time. But at the moment, the horse, it's probably a horse's length ahead of the electricity on the lighting.
Fantastic. Okay, John, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.